Hello, I'm Johnny the Super Game Brothers, and welcome to Month of Metroid. I plan on reviewing every single Metroid game in the main series, from Metroid to Metroid Fusion, and if I have enough time, I will conquer the Metroid Prime series as well. So with all that said, sit back, and I hope you guys enjoy. Alright, first up is Metroid, the one that started it all. Produced by the late Gunpei Yokoi, Metroid was released around 1986 for the Famicom Disk System, and 1 year later for the Nintendo Entertainment System. We pop in the cartridge and we get the title screen. If you wait a bit, we get what's probably the only story element of the entire game. Planet Zebeth? You mean Zebus? Kinda reminds me of the whole Aerith debacle. But anyway, we press start and we get the option to start and to continue. We'll get more into the continue option later. So upon choosing start, here we are. Talk about sweet and straight to the point. No cutscenes, no other story elements, the game just begins. You control Samus with the D-pad, shooting the B button and jumping with the A button. Samus can shoot either left or right or straight up. She can't shoot diagonally or straight down, which brings up some issues I'll get into later. So upon starting, most gamers usually start by treading right, only to find out, yeah, you can't get very far. Metroid proves it's not here to shit around by having the players do something that was incredibly rare back in those days, moving left. Upon doing so, we obtain the Morph Ball, and suddenly Samus can travel a hell of a lot more places. I never really understood how the Morph Ball worked. Is it mythical based? Is it technology based? If it's the latter, then Samus is either incredibly crammed up in this form or is probably a god of yoga. But then again, I'm probably looking too deep into that. Anyway, Metroid is an incredibly non-linear game. You're not told where to go, and there's nothing to guide you along the way. You're all alone on this planet, and it's up to you to figure out the best way to get into new areas of the game. Actually, I wonder how this mission briefing sounded when Samus actually got this mission. Samus, travel to planet Zebeth and defeat the Mother Brain. Okay, bye. Along your journey, you'll come across many power-ups which can boost up Samus' arsenal. This could range from missiles, which are more powerful than regular shots, energy tanks, which increases Samus' health, bombs, which you can set in Morph Ball mode, and of course, different beam power-ups. When Samus starts, her beam is so damn pathetic it doesn't even travel across the entire screen. It's sort of like Dan Hibiki's Hadouken, it's laughable. But soon, you'll come across the long beam, which allows Samus' beam to travel across the entire screen. You know, I never understood that. Why does Samus need a power-up to do something that many other heroes with guns can do without? Further down your travels, you'll come across two additional beam power-ups, the Ice Beam and the Wave Beam. Now, I'll say this right now, screw the Wave Beam, you'll only need the Ice Beam. It freezes enemies dead in their tracks, allowing for easy kills, and makes them temporary platforms you can use to reach higher places. The Wave Beam is okay and all, it's certainly more powerful than the Ice Beam and can travel through walls, but the main reason I wouldn't recommend it is an issue I'll explain in a bit. As you explore more and more throughout the corridors, you'll eventually find elevators that can take you in different areas. Norfair, Ridley's Lair, Brinstar, and Kraid's Lair. Within these areas are even more power-ups and the only two bosses in this game, Kraid and Ridley. In order to access the final area of the game, you'll need to pump these bastards full of missiles. Of course, just trying to get to these guys is near suicide. When you begin, Samus' health always begins at 30 out of a possible 99. Energy tanks, like I mentioned earlier, add an additional 99 units of health. But trust me, everything, and I mean everything in this planet is trying to kill you. And believe me, you will die. If it's not the amount of damage some creatures inflict, it's the overall abundance of them in tight corridors, not only making them nearly impossible to avoid, but they also constantly respawn upon death. You're gonna get hit. A lot. This of course makes progressing incredibly frustrating. When Samus loses all her health, you're knocked all the way back to the entrance of the area you're currently in. Samus retains all the power-ups you collected, including energy tanks, but your health is down to 30 units again, which means you'll have to do a shitload of farming in order to get back into full health. Killing enemies will cause them to occasionally drop either energy or missile ammo. The actual quantity varies among different enemies, but regardless, you'll be killing loads of enemies just to get back to comfortable levels. It can be incredibly tedious, and cheap enemy placements can often drain down your health at alarming rates. That's another thing that bugs me in this game is enemy placement. Sometimes I swear it's impossible to avoid enemy contact. Look, how was I supposed to avoid that? The moment I entered the room, I collided with whatever the hell that thing was. Oh, and occasionally when entering a different room, the door fails to close behind you, allowing following enemies to enter and get a free shot. And you're completely helpless when entering another room, so damage is inevitable. And sometimes enemies can hit you before you even exit the door. That's so freaking unfair. Oh, and when you're low on health, you'll get this incredibly annoying beeping noise that doesn't stop until you're back into safe levels of energy. If there's one thing that can absolutely rape your ears, it's 8-bit warning sounds. Oh, but wait, there's some power-ups I forgot to mention. Within Norfair, you can obtain the high jump boops, allowing you, of course, jump higher. But also within the realms of Norfair is probably the greatest weapon of all, the Screw Attack. Screw Attack! Alright, you sons of bitches, no more fooling around. It's time to show you what I can really fuck. Ugh. But yeah, the screw attack, stop that, is awesome. Upon doing flip jumps, Samus splashes many colors and is completely invulnerable to enemy attacks. Coming into contact with the enemies completely disintegrates them, making progression much more comforting. But as I was saying earlier, you'll need to defeat both Kraid and Ridley in order to progress into the final area of the game, Torian. Now, the correct order to go is to defeat Kraid first and then go after Ridley, but I'll tell you now, go after Ridley first. Sure, his hideout is pretty difficult to travel in, but Ridley himself is so piss easy, especially with the Ice Beam, it's almost a guaranteed victory. Kraid definitely puts up more of a challenge, so I recommend you go after him last. Upon defeating either boss, you're awarded 75 missiles to your arsenal. Can you feel the power brimming at your fingertips? That's called victory. So with both bosses defeated, we can finally reach Torian, and in this area there's only two types of enemies. These annoying as fuck orange rings of annoyance and... Metroid! Yeah, that's right. For a game called Metroid, we actually don't run into the damn things until the final area of the game. But Jesus, did they save the nastiest creatures for last? Metroids are completely invulnerable to normal attacks, except for the now famous combo of the Ice Beam and 5 missiles. This is the reason why I suggested you hold on to the Ice Beam instead of getting the Wave Beam. The Wave Beam does jack squat to Metroids, while the Ice Beam freezes them in place, making them vulnerable to missiles. If a Metroid manages to latch onto you, then roll into a ball and drop a crap load of bombs. Eventually it'll stall, allowing you enough time to retort with an Ice Beam shot. Just don't let more than one latch onto you. Torian itself is a rather small area. After traveling into what I think are about 4 different rooms, we reach the final corridor, consisting of turrets that fire in 3 different directions, more annoying onion rings, and the big bad of the game, Mother Brain. Mother Brain by herself is a total pussy. She doesn't attack you at all, instead relying on her incredibly annoying onion rings and turrets which can interrupt your attacks quite frequently. And by quite frequently, I mean all the time. Well, first off, in order to come anywhere close to Mother Brain, you'll need to pump these locks full of missiles, and you're going to need a lot of them. Not only that, but the locks regenerate health if you're not fast enough. But once they're destroyed, they're gone for good, so you don't need to worry about them coming back from the dead. If you ever find yourself running out of missiles, you can always go back and farm Metroids, who always leave either 30 units of health or 30 missiles upon death. Why can't other enemies be that generous? After pumping Mother Brain with enough missiles, the bitch dies in a glorious 8-bit explosion, and congratulations, you just beat the game. Oh! But wait, it's not over! Nothing is over! Yep, upon destroying Mother Brain, a countdown begins, and you only have about a minute and a half to climb this vertical shaft up to the escape elevator. It would really suck for you if you died here, so just carefully time your jumps and you'll be just fine. Upon reaching the elevator is when the game truly ends, and we're treated to this ending text. Great! You fulfilled your mission. It will revive peace in space, but it may be invaded by the other Metroid. Pray for a true peace in space. Well, that sucks. And just what the hell do they mean by the other Metroid? Do they mean that in the plural sense, or is this some super powerful Ultra Mega Metroid that's capable of invading space? Or maybe, just maybe... Nah. But hey, why is Samus flashing so many colors? Is she going hyper? Boobies! Samus is a girl? What a twist! Yeah, actually this was a pretty big deal when it was first revealed. Back then, women were often subject to the usual damsel in distress roles or other duties that were often neglected in favor of the male lead. To see a woman as the main character, not to mention just being incredibly badass, was something that would eventually cause more and more women to have more important roles in video games as the years came and went. Samus, you rock for that. But as a whole, Metroid is a game that hasn't really aged well. Well, first off, the game can be incredibly difficult at times. This lies mostly at the fault of not knowing where to go most of the time. The game is incredibly guilty of copying and pasting many areas in order to artificially lengthen the game, and because of that, areas look very similar to each other and thus makes it incredibly easy to get lost in. But then again, the exploration factor is what makes Metroid. I just don't think it works too well in this installment. Another factor is just how incredibly limited Samus is when starting off. I mean, for God's sakes, her beam doesn't even reach the end of the screen without the proper power-up. Thankfully, this is the only game in which Samus' power beam is limited in such a way. From now on, the long beam will be her default weapon. Another issue that kinda concerns me is Samus' inability to shoot diagonally or straight down. Whenever you fall down long distances, it's almost guaranteed that you're gonna get hit by an enemy that you can't do anything about because Samus, for some reason or another, can't shoot down. It's not so much of a big deal, but it's something that drives me nuts sometimes. Also, the game isn't meant to be beaten in one sitting, which is where the continue option comes in. Whenever you die, you're given a password that allows you to continue where you left off. The original Famicom release had a save feature like The Legend of Zelda, so why didn't the North American release get one as well? Christ, look at all these characters and numbers you have to enter. The angry video game nerd would be furious. But like other games with password features, there's also special passwords which you can produce from pretty cool effects. One is the infamous Justin Bailey code, in which a player can control Samus without her power suit and pretty much wear every power up in the game, in addition to 255 missiles. And then there's this password, NAR password with a shitload of zeros. Not only does this password give you every single upgrade in the game, but it also gives you unlimited ammo and unlimited health. Have fun playing God, with missiles. I'm not going to give this game a score, because, well, nearly 25 years later, does a score really matter at this point? It's an enjoyable title, but I would only recommend it for Metroid fans. Casual gamers should stay far away from this title. It takes a hardcore gamer to defeat a game such as this. But ladies and gentlemen, this is only the beginning of Month of Metroid. Stay tuned next time as we delve into Samus' pocket adventure with Metroid 2, The Return of Samus. Until then, I'm Johnny the Super Gamer Brothers. Thank you for watching. You guys have a good night, and you all take care.